Going live. Going live
I know.
on the Facebooks. Hopefully your video works. Ah, it's still working.
Hey
Still
guys,
working. How's it going, guys?
welcome back to Testing Normal. This is
This is
Curtis.
Jordan.
This is a podcast where we talk about anything and everything we want to. This is episode 60, which is a kind of a special number, I would say.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you, Jordan?
I would say it is. Yeah, yeah.
So
I don't know
this
why,
is
but I mean,
well,
it's a
I guess
number.
for a couple things. One, this is the first time that we've done this podcast through Skype, just you and I.
True.
We've done it with a guest before, but this is the first time where just you and I have done Skype. And it's kind of like this vibe of like, yeah, we're getting closer to being able to get back to normal a
Yeah,
little bit, right?
yeah, yeah. We've talked about the studio.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Getting back into the
Yep.
studio.
Yes, I'm very excited to get back in the studio and have real life guests come and talk to us as well.
Yeah, me too.
Episode 60 though. So
Six
this week
zero.
this week, guys, there's been some really interesting news. Of course, we always go over interesting news and interesting topics, right?
Yeah.
Um,
What's this number you have just at the top of your notes?
oh yeah, so that was just the most recent death count.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's normal. Keep that in there.
68,500 in 3 months, right?
So is
3 months,
that
68.
more or less than the flu?
That's a shit ton more for 3 months, especially.
Yeah, I know. I'm playing with you, but
But, um, but it's not a totally accurate number
right.
either, because I'm sure that there's a lot of tests that haven't been performed that could have been, and or
Stuff.
the world has been in isolation.
It could be stuff blamed
So
on COVID that's not, too.
yeah, exactly. Things could have been blamed on COVID. That's not totally.
Right.
So number, who knows? But I can tell you, a lot of people are itching.
Ron,
A lot of people
Ron
are
Etzel
itching to
says
get.
hi, Curtis.
Hey, Ron. Hope life is well. Hope you're doing good, buddy. That's my friendly next door neighbor.
Nice.
Super helpful. He's let me borrow a ladder
Is he the one with the big
on many
truck
occasions.
that couldn't get up the road because it was too steep?
I don't remember that.
It was some joke you made to one of your neighbors. He's like, "You want to borrow my truck to move?" Because you moved like 4 houses away. And you were like,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if it
yeah.
can make it up the hill. It's really steep.
Right,
I got
right,
a lot of stuff.
right.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was him. I can't recall.
He was straight
I
across
think
from
that's
you
my
before.
neighbor. I think that was my neighbor across the
Yeah,
street
yeah, yeah.
from
That
me.
was.
Yeah.
I don't have your neighbors
Um.
memorized. I don't have mine memorized. So why would I memorize your neighbors? That
Right, right. Dude, did you hear about the crazy, and this is all over the news, so I'm sure you probably did, but the murder hornets, they're out and about right now?
Okay, saw this in your notes, but no, I have not. So please,
Yeah,
please do tell about
super
the murder
wild.
hornets.
Yeah, murder hornets. So
This
the
isn't
hornets
slang for
are,
like a gang or something, right? Because it should be now. Like,
you know, maybe that could be our gang.
yeah.
Can we make a gang, Jordan? The murder
Let's start a
hornets?
gang. We'll be the murder hornets. That'd be
All
awesome.
right, I like it. No, but these are from Japan, basically. And they are these massive hornets that are been found and identified in Blaine, Washington.
What?
Yeah, or in Washington, Custer, near Custer, Washington. He said.
The murder
But
hornet.
this one guy who is a bee grower, I guess, yeah, bee farmer.
Right.
Um, he went and was checking on his hives, and he found like thousands and thousands of them dead and with their heads chopped off.
What?
And he's like, "What the heck?"
Oh, so
could
they're not
this be?"
murdering people, they're murdering other bees.
Right, they're murdering thousands and thousands of bees. But interesting enough, these bees are so big. Every year, the
What?
hornets kill approximately 50 people per year in Japan.
Whoa.
That's what they estimate.
So how'd they get
Yeah.
over here then?
I don't know.
Oh,
They
look at
they
that
haven't
picture of them.
totally.
Wow.
Yeah, they're huge. They're massive. Like if you scroll down to that, yeah, that little notebook,
Yeah.
the queen bees
Yeah.
are about 2 inches in length on average,
Wow.
which is pretty big for a bee, dude. Like you're looking
What
at.
if that's just that's like a toy notebook and those are really tiny bees?
Right, but I don't think so, because you can see the ruler underneath them, right? You can see it says inch.
Yeah.
You see that
Yeah,
inch?
no, I know. But I mean, that could be, to scale.
Yeah, maybe. I doubt they thought that much through that,
Maybe
but
not. Yeah.
yeah. So killer bees, look out.
Don't
Um,
touch the killer bees,
yeah.
please.
Tammy Wood was saying, "Oh, I thought they killed people." They do kill people, just not a ton of people, but 50 people still is quite a bit. Now, what I'm curious about is those they don't specify, at least on this website, how those 50 people were killed. So like, is it 50 people that had an allergic reaction to the bee stings, or is it 50 people that like got overwhelmed by being bitten and punctured and like,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's goodness gracious, killer bees. That remember that was kind of in the news when we were kids, like the killer bees thing, and it never really like surfaced. It seems like they're really making a comeback though with this killer. They're like, killer bees wasn't scary enough. We're gonna go with killer hornets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the scary part is right now, like our bees, right, have a hard enough time. There's all these different, was it fungi or parasite that's killing the bees,
Right,
all throughout the world, and so to have to deal with hornets that are chopping their heads off on top of it,
right.
I think that's more of the bigger threat, right?
Yeah, I would
Um,
say so.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know.
They're like, man, we were really doing bad with bacteria, and now we have to put up with our own species killing us. What are we, human?
Right. Right. I know that's what I was gonna say. Aren't we human? Is that what's happening right now?
What are we,
Kind of the same
humans?
thing. Kind of
Oh,
the same thing.
dude. Okay, so speaking of like us here in Skype, so like clearly like this is probably a clearer shot than we have on some of our cameras in the studio. Um, I saw this picture. It was just today that I saw this, and I thought about this because I've made some Skype calls like for work and stuff, and
Mhm.
I have like obviously there's a light here and stuff like that, so I do this kind of thing, and I saw this picture of this, but check this out. So like you got, I'll put it bigger. You have the three normal people like right here, and then you have
Mhm.
the one guy that clearly
The
plays
one,
games and streams
the
at
one
home.
gamer.
It's like a bit overkill, a bit overkill. Yeah,
Bit extra. We could call that a little extra.
a little over the top. He's got LED, RGB going on in the background. He's got his own mic. Other people are, scrambling to get the right headphones.
So Christina asked, how can we protect our honeybees from Japanese
Ooh,
hornets?
that's a good question.
And then John O replied, and he said, well, first we should close our borders. Like,
Just to
well
China
said.
bees. That
Just,
that's
just,
will solve
just
it.
to, nope, no, these are Japanese bees. So just to kung fu bees,
Oh, it
and
still it still could be kung fu bees. Yeah.
yeah, still could, it still could.
Yeah.
Maybe these are somehow like coronavirus infected bees that just have gotten mutated, right?
Right.
And now we have to deal with super raging hormonal
Okay.
killer
So
bees.
this whole like this has like brought out like the different news in people, like things that people have figured out at home and stuff. Clearly people have been drinking more and, doing other types of things at home.
Drinking more Zevias.
Uh,
This episode brought to you by Zevia,
it,
strawberry flavor.
Dr.
Get
Zevia.
it from Raw.
Yeah, they have it in stock now. They were out of a lot of flavors
That's
for a while. Um, I saw this last night and I was excited to show this to you because I don't usually bring like a health thing to you, but I learned something. This guy, I'll show you
nice.
first what he posted. Okay. He posted a picture of himself. Okay. So this is going to be full screen. And he
Okay,
said,
interesting.
after years of casual drinking, I have developed alcohol intolerance. This started 3 nights ago.
Mm.
Now, after one drink, I look like this. So he's splotchy, right?
Can you make it bigger?
That's
Him?
that's what the maiden
If not, that's okay.
proclaimed. Um,
Ha!
the
That's what she said.
yeah.
Uh
Uh,
oh. Uh
oh, there we go. Yeah. So I can try to make the
oh.
page a
Okay.
little bigger. So see
That was
how
good.
see how he's kind of splotchy.
Yes.
So get this. I'm I would like saw I actually saw this last night and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. That's like something just kind of catches your attention. Like, well, what is that?
Right.
I look through the comments, and Reddit comments can be hilarious, but this was consistent amongst all of them. Like the very number one comment said, "Go get yourself tested. I had this happen and had cancer." And like the next person, next person, next person, next person, all same thing. One guy's like, I got diagnosed with leukemia. I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. I got diagnosed, and I guess it's a common thing that when you start showing signs of alcohol intolerance, you have a compromised immune system in a way that makes some people splotch up like this. And it like, it changed the conversation heavily. But I mean, I'm talking like I scrolled through these comments, all the top comments were people who said this happened to me. I'm now in remission or something to that
Mhm.
effect.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I have not seen in my personal experience a direct correlation with, and honestly, I have not seen a lot of alcohol induced allergen responses either.
Right.
So maybe that is a more common correlation
Yeah.
with alcohol allergen responses. I haven't seen that, so I can't speak on that
Yeah,
specifically.
so this is one of the number one says I got a reaction like that with my chest and left arm hurting as like a truck hit me. I got diagnosed with lymphoma. Get screened to see if you have cancer. And then like people off of
Sucks.
his and then off of the next one, off the next one. This guy's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think this pandemic could get more stressful."
So here's a good educational tip for you, and not to freak people out by any means, but a good way when you're assessing rashes. There's a different things as far as the way you can examine them to tell what they are from. So usually if it's a raised rash, or the technical word is urticarial or hive like, um, it's more likely a reaction to something. If you press on the rash and it blanches, that's always a really good sign.
What's blanching?
Uh, Blanching means like if it's like a red circle, and then you press in the center of the red circle. Ooh, excuse
Whoa.
me. And, burps.
Burp.
Toots. And you press in the middle of the red circle and it turns white, then that means that it's more likely a reaction, infection.
That's good to know.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah. Whereas if it does not blanch, um, like if it stays like little ruptured blood vessel appearance,
Right.
then it either is a ruptured blood vessel, which can happen from like suction. I've had a bunch of times kids come in because parents bring their kids in for them having like this rash around their mouth or on their chin or on their cheeks,
Right.
and it's ruptured blood vessels from when they put like a vacuum on their face or suction a cup or something to their mouth, right?
Wow.
Um, but if it's like there's no reason for the petechial type rash is the name of it, then that is a little bit more concerning for possible cancer, and you need to get
Right.
blood draw.
I just thought it was interesting. I was like, well, I would have never thought that like alcohol could actually be a good gauge of if you could get screened for cancer.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure.
Yeah.
I haven't
I was like,
I haven't
oh
heard.
man, sucks to be this guy. He posts on Reddit like in the r slash well that sucks, and it got worse. Like
Oh no.
that's where he posted this.
We need to see what the follow up shows with
He was
that
like,
for sure.
what? Yeah, I know. I've
Okay,
followed that.
so
So
for everybody out there listening, we want to get your opinions. Tell us, what do you think about? Have you guys been hearing about what's going on in Canada?
I have.
Canada banned recently, just Friday, so 2 days
Well,
ago,
I think it's. I don't know
and
if it's ban or if they're working on
so
it.
they voted it into law.
Oh, they did.
They
Okay.
have a grandfather period for 2 years,
Okay.
but they voted it into law, and after that 2 years, there's no exceptions. But they're working to compensate people. But
Right.
Canada banned all assault rifle style
Yeah.
weapons.
It's a slew of
Um,
them that they did.
and they said, yeah, he said basically, um, you're no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military grade assault rifles
Right.
in the state or in the country of Canada. So they're gonna have to like buy back from the
And
populace
it's
those
like
weapons.
historically is not a good deal for the people that had them. Um, I this is one of those things that I think. I mean, people can have their opinions. I know that some people that listen to this are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I'm all for this." I am emphatically not for this. Although this is Canada, so they have different laws than we do.
Right, they
I
have
would
different
say
laws.
this would this would breach Second Amendment rights. And here's the argument that everyone makes right away.
But real quick, Canada did it because
They had
they
a mass
had
shooting.
they
Another
had a
one.
mass shooting last week,
Yeah.
or
Which
the week before
it's just
last.
it's a knee-jerk reaction to a horrible situation. Like that's the hard part is when you say like, "Oh, I'm not for this." It doesn't have to mean that you're saying I don't value these people's lives. I value very little the person who did this to those people. Um, but if I were to apply this here, I would say number one, it wouldn't go through this fast. Number two, I don't. It it's not gonna. It doesn't solve the human condition. it solves somebody using these. But the
I guess
argument
it
that's
decreases
used,
the potential
I mean, kind of.
effectiveness of mass
If you want
shooting
to make this,
of an individual.
you'd have to make it for any type of weapon because people that become proficient in this, like if someone's dumb, they're bad at an assault rifle. And to say like I
But it's easier to be a mass shooter with an assault rifle than it is with a bolt action.
not really, I can be way
I
more
would
targeted
wager.
with a bolt.
Yeah, but you have to be more proficient. I think that if you have
You'd have to be
a,
proficient
a
with
group of
anything.
people, if you have a group of people, it's much easier to maintain aim on a target and just simply pull a trigger versus having to reload, cock, aim again, shoot, reload, cock,
So
aim, shoot again.
so the argument you're making is take them away and then people won't be able to do this. I
I'm saying
guess
there's
there
less
there isn't a society
potential.
with everyone having band-aids, but if everyone had like the ability to protect themselves, it's been shown statistically that these people won't attack. Like that they won't attack
Well,
an
then in
area
that
that
in that in that in that mind thought, then you would have to require every individual to be carrying some type of weapon.
some towns have done that and they have almost no crime at all, like no break-ins in the US. Because then you have the potential that if you walk into a house, you 100% are going to be met with something. And I'm not saying that that's a good argument. I'm not saying that that's what, but saying like I ban everything, it's going to solve the problem. It doesn't solve the human condition. You still have the mental problem. You still have a
All I
person
know is
that did
that
this,
Jono says it worked in Australia.
but it won't work
That's all
here.
I know.
He said wouldn't work for America.
But I left out the last half of that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's just and always the argument goes to you don't need this to kill a deer. Okay, in the United States, I'm not talking about Canada. Canada, they're on their own with this argument. We are allowed the Second Amendment right to protect ourselves from tyrannical government because that's why we were formed. And it's not going to hold up anywhere else. And I will say flat out, I have one of these weapons in my house, and it has so far not it has not it has not been the murderer of anybody because I keep it locked up and I know how to use
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. Um, but yeah, I have an AR-15.
No, you
It's
don't.
pretty high
No, you
caliber
don't.
though.
You
I
don't
do.
have an AR-15. You have an
I have an
AR-22. You have an
AR-15.
AR-22.
It's an AR-15, 22 caliber. And maybe for all you know, I might be able to convert it to a a three a
A 308, a
203
223,
203
556,
223
something like that. Yeah.
223
No, you can't.
503 308.
You would need a different upper. You need
I got
half a
different
gun to do
area
it.
codes. Area codes. Yeah, so that's a pretty big move for Canada, but they don't have the same constitutional
No, they don't.
amendments that prohibit them from making that type of move, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. Um so big news for Oregon.
Yeah.
When I was at work this week, I actually had the opportunity to um, have this playing. I don't know if anybody out there listened to
What about
Kate
when I go
Brown's
crazy? That's what John was asking me. You know what? Don't be around. I'm a good shot.
"Look
So.
Out." Well, you are allowed to wear vests,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
body armor is still an option. Yeah, it's kind of like almost it seems like it's an all or nothing thing. It's like everybody needs to be armed or nobody, including the government, which doesn't work. So I don't know. In America at least.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think it's going to happen in America, not anytime soon. And if it
so
does, there will literally be a civil war. I think that people don't realize that. There will be a civil war over that. That's why it wouldn't work in America. I'm not saying I want that. I'm not saying that I would advocate for that. I'm just saying it would be a big issue.
right, right,
More
right,
than
right.
anything,
Totally, totally.
more than people being locked in their homes. It would be much worse because it's not a partisan issue. It transcends all party lines. You would see people
I
united
guess
in
I
ways
guess
that
it's
we've never
just
seen
it's
them united
interesting that it
before.
works, that it does work in some countries, obviously. And so I guess the issue comes down to at what point in
My uncle's
are
calling me
you
crazy in chat.
at
I'm already
what point are you
crazy.
willing to sacrifice potential government control
Yeah,
for individual
that's
people
been the
control?
question with this whole lockdown
Yeah.
and situation now. And I think that there are moments for that, but I think that there's also temporary moments for that. So like we have seatbelt laws, we have speed limits, but they're different in different areas, right? So um,
Right.
with this,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's different in different areas, and
Yep, that's
I
true.
think that
Very
I
true.
think that that's wise. It's so you can't just like blanket say no one can have anything, because if that's the case, then all the innocent people would have no rights, and we would only be doing it to protect ourselves from the bad people.
So, the speech Kate Brown gave today,
I did.
or not today, sorry.
It was yesterday,
It
wasn't it?
was no, it wasn't
I did
yesterday.
not
It
watch it.
was Friday. Was it Friday? I worked Friday
Jono,
and
I have a
Saturday.
gun now.
Yeah,
I feel very
Friday.
American. Some days I even feel the accent coming on.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot
Uh,
of people are posting, commenting, saying, yeah, it's not a gun problem, mental health problem, saying, we want to be careful with our Second Amendment rights, not giving
yeah.
them away. I understand your concerns, but I think that it's also, um,
I don't think it's bad to talk about either way. I think
I
it's
think it's an issue. I think it's an issue that you have different opinions depending on where you're from
mhm,
and your own experiences you've encountered.
yeah. What's with any issue?
Someone that, yeah, right,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, for sure. But so going back to Kate Brown,
Yeah.
so she gave a presentation speech. She had the one of the head infectious disease specialists from OHSU on. Kaiser Permanente was on with her. I believe it was Kaiser Permanente, and then Oregon Health Authority, one of their head providers there. And it was interesting. So Kate Brown has released a new game plan, and she is going to there by email and by paper standard mail. They're going to send out 100,000 requests to individuals to be enrolled in a testing um, group, and they're going to test those individuals randomly for coronavirus. But it's not totally random because she is going to be selecting higher risk groups
Right.
or so for testing. So a lot of those you mentioned were the tribal communities, a lot of the Hispanic communities, and probably some of the Russian communities actually as well, which have been getting in trouble for doing like certain mass group
Gatherings.
church gatherings and wakes and everything, and they've been getting a lot higher concentration of people sick.
Right.
Uh, but 100,000 individuals are going to get randomly tested randomly.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
okay, so that's not abnormal for statistics. So you want to be consistently random is what I always learned, is that if you're random
mhm,
random, you will not get a good statistical data to use. But if you're consistently random in your selection, you will. So
right.
there is a amount of randomness that you want and an amount that you don't want. So
Yeah.
that's the purpose behind good numbers, which is good. It's good
Well,
that
it's
they're telling
also
us
when
that.
there's yeah, exactly. If there's areas that have a higher propensity, you want to be able to test those.
Right.
Um,
And you can
so
extrapolate that data because you know where you sent that test. So,
right.
right.
So that's interesting. She's starting to implement that type of
Now,
testing.
is that free
It
testing to those people? Like that?
yes,
Okay.
totally free, totally
And
free.
California or Los Angeles has done that as well, right? They're becoming one of the
Well,
first to do
far more than that.
free
Far more
tests.
than that. Los Angeles, for anybody, whether you're symptomatic or not symptomatic, they just released um, they're implementing a program for anybody to get tested in the entire LA County.
Okay.
Um, so if you want to get tested, you can. If they start running low on test kits, they'll start to give preferential treatment to individuals that have high risk and or are having symptoms.
Right.
Um, but the other thing is the uh, what I kind of was surprised by, they were giving information about how many test kits LA County had, and apparently they have 9% of the entire United States testing capability.
What?
So almost 10% basically.
That's
9% is
crazy.
close to 10. Yeah, so they have a mass amount of testing capacity
Right.
compared to anywhere else in the
Well,
entire
it's just
country.
funny. Is like I was reading stuff, and I don't remember where it was that I read this. It's like this person, I think it might have been New Jersey. It was like this happened, this happened, this happened, and this family's dog got tested and tested positive for COVID. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if we have a testing shortage, why did they test their dog? Like,
Why are dogs getting
why
tested? I
does
know.
that
Or
matter?
lions.
Or tigers?
Lions.
The
Like,
tiger.
right,
Okay,
there's
so
lions and
the
tigers.
tiger thing was needed so that we could figure out if Carol Baskins was guilty, and so that's valid. That's a valid test. But dogs, no, let's not test dogs. They don't.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
they don't have any comorbidities to it. They don't. They.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I was pretty annoyed by that.
Yeah.
So yeah, LA County mass testing in Oregon though. So Oregon right now is doing pretty good as far as testing
Hmm.
goes, availability. Now you usually have to be symptomatic, so you can't really easily get tested if you're asymptomatic.
Right.
But if you are having active symptoms, like, and those would include fevers, shortness of breath, persistent coughing, sore throat. Typically, if you make an appointment with one of the, I know at least for Salem Hospital, if you make an appointment with one of our clinics, we'll screen you, talk with you, have a video visit maybe, and then have you follow up at one of the respiratory clinics. Where right now, currently, we have the capacity to test people now,
Right.
so we can test people. We're seeing the ramping up availability of testing, which is encouraging,
Yeah, that's
which
awesome.
is what we need to be able to progressively continue opening up. And that's
Right.
what Kate Brown was saying. As our testing capacity increases, so shall our availability to open people up. And they were saying, as we increase our expansion of opening up the country and the state, there will be more deaths because of that opening.
Do you think some of
Um,
that though, because for the people that say they contracted it in the last 3 weeks, typically it's like 3 weeks in the hospital, and that's when you would see a lot of the deaths. So when we saw the peak, we would see the peak of cases, we would see the peak of deaths 2 to 3 weeks after. Am I right? Like,
maybe, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
logically speaking, that's the way that
yeah.
that's the way we would see it.
I guess. Are you saying like in reference if we to open things back up?
Right, yeah. So and going off of what we
Right.
have now, the peak in deaths, what I don't want to see happen is them go, "Oh my gosh, we have tons more deaths. We're peaking in deaths now. Let's close it all back down
Yeah.
again." Because
Yeah.
we would know that those are people that were in the hospital for a while and now are
Right.
dying
Basically, they would have to have
later.
well, but that's the thing, the hospitals right now, guys, for the majority of the populace, or the majority of the hospitals in
Oregon.
Oregon,
There's room.
most of them have, we still have a few COVID patients, but a lot of them have been discharged or passed
Hmm.
away.
Right.
um
So if you're going to get it,
so
now's the time to do it. Just don't blow it for
yeah,
the
in
rest of us,
hospital
okay?
right now we really are not slammed at all with positive COVID patients.
What if that became like the next thing? So all these protesters saying open back up. If they said the next protest thing was if you feel sick, do not go to the doctor so that they don't report it so we can open up sooner.
That's
I
interesting.
was just thinking, I
That's
just
interesting.
thought of that. I was like, whoa, that people would be nuts enough to do that. Because now we have these protesters and stuff that are a lot of them that have arranged for these protests have been kicked off of Facebook and are now on this other app called like WeMe or something like that, which doesn't filter anything. It's where a lot of like very extremist groups hang out, and it's because Facebook actually did say like um, that they're only eliminating and removing accounts that are encouraging to break current social distancing rules and regulations
Okay,
in place.
so what I saw from that, I read more into that.
Hmm.
It was also connection. They were finding a lot of Russian
Yes.
factory bot trollers that were um, they were trying to incite. I mean, of course, this is a perfect opportunity, like
Oh
they
yeah.
did with past elections. A lot of Russian and probably Chinese too um, troll companies are trying to elicit anger and riots, and like I saw one case where they actually started and organized the protest. It was a Russian company that organized and started a
That's crazy.
protest to
Right.
to like contest what's going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's
what
like,
I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was good that Facebook clarified. They said we're not kicking off groups that are organizing protests. We're specifically going after ones that are asking you to break the rules, which
yeah,
in most states you could still protest. You
right,
just have to follow the current regulations, which is fine. I
yeah,
think that we have the right to protest. We live in a country where we have that, just like we have the
America,
Second Amendment. Like people should and could take, you know, take their rights and use them
Yeah.
for that. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think sometimes they look weird doing it, but I think it's a good freedom that people need to take advantage of. I think what's interesting, going back to like combining this kind of with the gun thing, is that the most peaceful protests, because I work downtown by our Capitol, the most peaceful protests that we have in Oregon, and I've talked to OSP about this because they're down there as well, is the gun rights people.
Well, it kind of has to be though.
Yeah, but they're all walking around with a firearm on their back, right
Right.
around the Capitol.
So right. So it kind of has to be the most peaceful one.
Right. I know, but they
Like if
said that
it's not
they
if
said
it's
they're
not
even the
peaceful,
most exactly. It proves their point. But I'm saying like they take it to that step. They're like, we think that we have this right and we can peacefully protest while showing that we're taking advantage of our rights. And the police officer said they're the nicest people. Like we go out and we talk to them. We walk around and chat with them to ask them about their firearms, all that kind of stuff. And they're like they're like the best. It's funny. Like
I believe it.
it's
But it's interesting. Like yeah, I guess when you have a certain level of, I guess it give not power, but well maybe a certain level of freedom from concern of not having control. I
right,
guess it gives you a certain level of control when you have the ability to protect yourself in that way.
right.
Then it kind of you don't have the need to have the level of
Yeah.
toxicity, right?
Yeah,
In some
they don't
ways.
ramp up fast. They don't want to. Like that's their whole point. It's just interesting because there are some groups down there that are quite loud. The people that honked
Yeah.
horns because of the whole green deals and stuff like that, they were the most annoying.
You just did. You got annoyed by horn honking.
It was all day long, 7 a.m. to like 8, just
That's
wah
obnoxious.
wah wah and screaming, yelling, very poorly
Um,
spelled signs. It was great.
so okay, the only other thing. Oh, okay. So I got a couple questions real quick. I'm gonna throw out there. Somebody asked me how much COVID testing costs, um, and
Totally depends,
so
doesn't
like
it?
yeah, it depends on your insurance. But the other thing is that right now there's kind of I don't know for sure about this, but I believe certain COVID tests have not been billed for yet
Ah,
because the federal government had said Trump or somebody, maybe Pence, somebody said you will not be, if you want to get tested, you will not have to worry about paying to get tested.
ah.
So hospitals are kind of like, what do we
What
do
do we
with
do
this?
with it? Yeah.
Is this actually true? Is the government going to cover all these expenses and testings and being screened? So right now, I believe some individuals haven't gotten billed because of that.
So speaking of things that nobody's talking about, um, look at look at this real quick.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening to audio, it's a
Was that
meme I showed him.
or March, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
says why isn't anyone talking about how the last normal day we had was Friday the 13th? And I went and looked at a calendar. I was like, that's right. That's the end of the last normal week. Ended on a Friday the
Dude,
13th, and here we are.
dude, March. Wow. So April. So potentially in May of 13th, we might be opening certain things back up in our state. They were talking about rural counties being able to open back up.
Here's my
Um,
question. Why are big companies, say like Walmart,
yeah.
why are they able to stay open and smaller ones are not?
I guess it. I guess you have to potentially look at supply and demand. So if you look
But I
at the
mean people that
mass,
sell the same damn thing.
I think it's a matter of supply availability. So if you have like that one small shops, if they shut down Walmart's
Hmm.
and Costco, and they shut down all these bigger places,
But why does
I
it
don't think those
matter
smaller places could
if it's
support
going
it.
to be just as safe? Why does it matter? That's my question.
I don't think the smaller places could provide the same amount of resources that the bigger ones could, right?
Why not? What resources could they not provide?
So a smaller store only has so much capacity.
For
So if you
capacity for
are
people or for product?
both, if you shut down Safeway and only had a small little deli open,
No, but I'm
they're
saying
not going to have
why didn't they let the small deli stay open and let
as
the
well.
and yeah.
Are you saying as
Hmm.
well?
Yeah, just with the same precautions.
Oh,
I mean
yeah, I don't know
I
about
mean
that. I think
it's
if it's actually like if it's actually like providing, sustenance for people, then I don't
But
know
I
why
mean,
they
but I
wouldn't
mean,
shut that down.
there are some that they did, and so they like
I don't
favored big
know.
business when they did it. It's like say you had a small shop and you could only realistically have 4 people in there and follow the rules. If you're willing
Yeah.
to do that, why can't you do it?
If it's I guess it depends on what the shop is for. If it's a shop that was providing critical goods, then I think it should have stayed open for sure. But I know some did, like small, like meat shops. I know stayed open.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know what ones were shut down that were like
Well, I
critical
mean,
good ones.
for instance, like why is why
Like, did
are
Rainbow Foods get shut down?
no, but
They
like
stayed
like
open.
there's little mom and pop shops that like had to like either close their doors or do like
But
at the door delivery. Like
but
I just stopped at one today that's
like
closed.
what?
It's just
Like
like a
what
health
was
food
it?
store. Like it's a small health food store, and they have to
So like
bring
they
things
sell
out to the window.
pills, or do they actually sell like actual like
Diff.
like could you get groceries there?
Yeah, some grocery items. It just depends. Like there's some that that's the only place I get them. And it was
Hmm.
like, what the like
I don't know. I think if it's actually providing a important dietary product, then I think for sure it should have stayed open.
right. But
Yeah.
see, so here's my point. My point is if you're gonna let the Costco's and the Safeways and all those guys stay open and give them regulations on it, it is just the same danger of spread giving the same, like basically any business, the same regulations and allowing them to have stayed open.
I don't think that it makes sense to shut down any business small like that if it was providing a critical good.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that makes
But I guess
sense.
you could say like, well, what is and isn't critical. So like some of the things that they called critical are a little bit odd. I mean, we've talked about it, but like um, like pot shops. There's some people maybe
Or alcohol
or
shops,
alcohol like
right?
liquor stores.
But liquor had actually a viable reason, right? Because they were concerned if they got rid of the availability to get alcohol, people that are alcoholics could actually
But
like
you could
die
make that argument for other
from
things.
DTRs, you know?
You could make that argument for like you could loosely make that argument for haircuts.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna buy that one. Not for haircuts.
But I
Definitely
guess what I'm
not.
saying is I think at this point, knowing what we know now, at least a few weeks after everything went down and it went from 2.2 million down to like 60,000 people, that they should have
Uh,
said, okay, here's the regulations. We still learning.
yeah, changes.
Everything opens,
Yeah.
but with these regulations. And I think that they could
It's
roll that
that's
out tomorrow and be done.
It's called a test of change, right? So a test of change is what we would implement when there's something like in the medical field, like we need to see if this is working. Okay, this is working, and now we can adjust this. Test of
Pot
change. I
shops
like
are
it.
definitely critical. Uh-huh. You know what? Very aware. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say for public, uh, what is it?
I
Relaxation.
guess I would make that argument just for jobs and economy too. I mean, that's essential for some people with income.
Yeah, then that's just basically doing nothing,
No, I mean if I can go and people can work at Costco, they can work at all these other places and but they have to follow these guidelines, why can't everyone just follow those guidelines? What's the problem?
because some jobs don't contribute to that, and
Don't
they're not
contribute to what?
actually. Some jobs are not conducive to that, like being able to follow those guidelines. Like you can't follow that guideline as a school teacher with kids,
No, I would agree with you there. There are some that can't, but they don't
right?
they could have alternatives to how they work. So like
Right,
for
and that's what they're doing now, right?
say for instance someone
Like
said we
like
it's
Zoom
what
school.
we do is not conducive to this and they're doing like manufacturing and they're shoulder to shoulder. Okay, well then you need to spread out, but you can keep doing what you're doing just at that capacity instead.
But with that, if you spread out, potentially you can't have that many people working. So you'd
No, I
have
know,
to flex
but
it,
yeah, you'd have to flex, or you could do alternating schedules, which is what they
right?
originally bounced around the idea of, especially in offices,
Well,
is where.
some companies are doing that.
Mhm.
I know even like at the hospital they're doing that.
Yeah, I know that like state offices were required to do that. If people were required to be in the building, that they would rotate schedules if people were near each other or move them desks. It just seemed like a I don't know. It seemed like go if we had to do this again, like that's a more reasonable approach versus like it's gonna get to the point if it goes on much longer where there's a lot of people in need and want that this is gonna hurt
Oh, it already
economically.
is.
I know it
It
is
already
already, but
has.
it's just gonna continue
Yeah.
to get worse.
And it's like a rock and a hard spot. And especially when you're and that's the crazy thing is like if this happens again, and what if it was like the same level of um, communicable disease,
Hmm.
but it was even like a totally different thing. It was like Ebola, where you're bleeding from your eyes and out your orifices and all these different holes, and you're like super,
If
even a
that
higher propensity
happens,
for death.
it's selfie time. Like if you're gonna go through that, you may as well have a great Halloween
I
selfie.
guess. But it's interesting. It's just interesting the degree of it's a this is going to be such a fascinating study when people look back 10 years from now
The
and
thing that still
analyze this whole
scares me
thing.
from this is if this really does happen, say we do get an Ebola level thing or a Spanish flu level thing, are people gonna listen next time?
Well, and honestly, even with this current thing, our country and the world has never locked down like we've
I
locked
know.
down right now. So if we had not locked down the way we did, we can't say specifically that we would not have had
No, I'm not making that
millions
argument.
and
I
millions
guess
of
I'm
people
making the argument
dying
for
from this.
what could we learn from this that instead of hard lockdown, shut down everything, we could do something that's almost as I mean it's like let's see, I'm gonna pull up this picture for you. It was in COVID stuff. Um, Here we go. I found it. It is gonna be great. You're gonna think this is super funny. It's the greatest thing in the world. I wouldn't go that far. Never mind. I take that back.
Bold
So
statement.
this is for why you should wear face masks. Is using the urine test. If we all run around naked and someone pees on you, you get wet right away if you don't wear anything. But if you're wearing pants, some people get through, but not as much, so you're better protected. If the guy who pees is also wearing pants, the pee stays with him and you do not get wet at all.
Yeah, that's funny. It's a pretty basic explanation there. I like
Right.
it. Okay, so yeah, I agree, but at the same point, I don't think the hard part, and this is totally understandable. People are struggling financially. I 100% agree that we, as a country, need to continue to look towards providing a more efficient and better way of keeping people working, keeping people getting money to provide for their family. And it's really hard to find um, the inner peace with being locked down like this
Right.
when you yourself have not seen, when you yourself have not had to paralyze somebody, intubate them, and then watch them struggle to breathe
Right. But okay,
even though they're intubated.
so while that's horrible, and I have not had to do that, it you would have to do that for some things regardless of corona or Ebola or whatever. That is a very narrow perspective.
Well, but
And so that's
it's
what
a
other
perspective.
people aren't seeing. So they're stuck at home,
No,
they're not seeing that perspective.
they're not seeing that,
But
right?
also
But it's on a
that's your only
level.
perspective or someone's only perspective. Does that make sense?
No,
So like
no, but
you
I'm
would have
saying
a
like
polarized like it's so
you would
bad.
have no, but you would have, if you were in a hospital setting and you were seeing the same thing happen over and over and over again,
Mhm.
you would have a better understanding of why that restriction was put in place, because they know that it had a potential to be so bad.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is like I'm not arguing that we shouldn't take precautions because I think that I think it's smart. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know. I think there's a lot more things that we do know now. But I guess what I would say is if we know now, the problem I see with this is that I think that in the first 2 weeks most people would have agreed, okay, yeah, we need to stay home, we need to distance ourselves, we need to get some control on this. But then after that,
Yep.
the issue is there isn't quick enough ways to say, okay, it wasn't as bad as we thought. Let's start
In
ramping
our
things
area.
back in our
Yeah.
area.
It's
And so
specific to
it's
location,
like
for
really
sure.
really slow.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. I think the 2 weeks was super good. I think 3 weeks is super good because you have that little buffer afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think the time it takes to adjust back, I think that's the biggest failure there is in that area for sure. Somebody just sent me a message asking, what do you think it's going to be like when we get back to when we do get a vaccine for this?
Hmm.
Do you think anti-vaxxers are going to be
Oh, they're gonna hate it.
pushing
They're gonna hate it.
pushing against it.
And
That's
honestly, if
to
they
the side.
rushed one out right now, I can't say that I would necessarily be in trust of it. Like if they were like,
I
"We've
think it would
got it."
also depend where you're at. And when we're in this area, right?
Right.
It'd be like we have less incentive. But if you're in the heart of New York or Chicago or dude, New Mexico's getting hit hard now too. You would maybe have a different perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also when there's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
But okay,
Ron,
so we should
Ron,
probably get to
we will get to that in just a second. Ron had said about the Oregon Constitution, it expires after 30 days. Yeah, she is definitely in violation of it. I don't know what rules go into that from from
point around.
a federal stand. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that,
Right.
but I've heard that a lot, and I know that that exists, and I think that's probably why she hasn't said a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think she's scared too. Um, but I think that I was talking to my wife about this today. I think we live in a society now where, like this discussion that you and I are having, like I don't think that we necessarily disagree. It's just I'm trying to come at it from a
Yeah,
different angle,
yeah.
and
It's good to have different
and and
perspectives
maybe there's like
about
some
this.
slight differences that you and I have, but that's fine. But we live in a society where people make blanket statements and they say, "This is the truth, and if you think otherwise, you're
Yeah.
stupid." And then they're like, "Nobody responded to me. Clearly, I'm right." I'm like, "No, no. People just don't want to talk to you. You're just kind of a jerk."
Because you come across like an
Yeah,
ass.
like if you had said that differently and said, "Hey, this is my perspective. What do you think?" You probably would have got some responses. But when we live in a world where if you vote for Trump, you're automatically a racist, a bigot, and a sexist, and a
Or if you vote
murderer,
for
and all that kind of stuff.
Bernie, or
Yeah, exactly.
or someone else, then
Exactly.
you're a fascist,
Both
and
both
you're
sides of that argument, they do the
yeah.
same thing, and we live in a society where we like we immediately put people down so their views aren't even valid when you don't even know them because you think they're just going to be stupid and you're going to scream and yell at them anyway. It's like don't do that. Like
So
we've lost discussion.
agree. But hey guys, so next week we're gonna do a specific. We're our topic for next week. We're gonna go over a certain particular historical figure. So
Something.
we're gonna yeah. So throw out there, anybody out there, if you guys have a specific historical figure that you think would be really juicy for us to do some research on and really would like us to look into, let us know who it would be. Because yeah, we have a couple in mind, and if we find one that you recommend to us, we may
I'm
go into
glad
that
you
one.
haven't. Why would I compare this to Holocaust? That is I'm glad I haven't either. That's awful. Whoever's doing that, they need to like
Oh
reconsider
my
their
god,
life
terrible.
decisions and thoughts. Like
That's terrible.
just step back a second, you know? I saw a
That's
video today. It was Laura Ingraham and it's like it said the video said like she forgot which rally she was at and she like turns and accidentally does like this Heil Hitler type motion and then
oh
changes and starts waving. And it was like total accident like reflex, but people are like calling her out on it.
oh my
And
god,
it was
that's
like,
terrible.
oh my gosh, anyone could do that. Like anyone could make that motion and have it get stuck on video
Yeah, but when you're a
nowadays.
public figure like that,
Oh, I know.
that's
I think she was like pointing and waving at someone that was like off to her side, and it just looked like it because she immediately did something else, and it wasn't like she was nervous she did it or it was funny, but I don't know how that.
Um, okay, so I'm gonna throw out there some things that I learned this week. Okay, guys,
Do it.
some TILs. Today I learned. All right. So first thing I learned is that there is a religious group in Japan who believes that Jesus did not die. Instead, it was his brother. Apparently, he had a brother named Isakuri.
It's a normal name.
And
Sounds legit.
uh, sounds legit. So instead, Jesus went to Japan and lived there until he was 106 years old, and his grave is found in Shingo, and thousands of pilgrims go there every year to visit his gravesite.
What?
Interesting thing. Yeah, learned that this week.
uh,
So somebody just recommended Isaac Newton. We'll look into that one maybe. We'll see.
I don't know.
Keep
I'm
them
not a big
coming.
Apple fan. Um,
Mm.
TIL. Pineapples in the 1700s were worth over $8,000 in present day currency. People would literally rent them to flex at parties.
I find that fascinating.
Isn't it?
$8,000 in present day for a pineapple, but I guess it was so rare. Like you had to travel to
Yeah,
really
now when we walk into a
rare
store
pineapple.
and like I bought bananas today. I'm like they don't grow around here. Like they if you try to grow a banana tree, you're gonna get bananas like this big, if at anything, in like 30 years, and it's like just a
Yeah,
normal thing.
Um, let's see. Oh, okay. I had the other one that I learned. So we all grew up with the Evanescence song, the "Bring Me to Life." You know, wake me up, give the dust inside, wake me up. You know that
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Sounded pretty good. So
Perfect.
the male
We're probably gonna get
vocals,
muted because it was just
probably.
so the same.
Um, the male vocals in Evanescence, "Bring Me to Life," were added because radio stations thought that the song was too feminine, and so they had to have that guy saying "Wake me up."
What?
Yeah,
That's
but that
weird.
wasn't originally in the song.
People are weird. Okay, speaking of plagues, TIL,
Yeah.
the Black Death was personified by an old woman carrying a rake and a broom. If she used the rake, some would survive in between the teeth of the rake, and if she used the
Oh,
broom, the whole population of an area would die.
whoa. That's a really cool analogy.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's wild. I don't have any more
I
TILs.
have
Do you
one
have any more?
more, and Jono's gonna love
Hit
this if
me.
he's still sitting there. Uh,
Get it.
TIL,
Yeah,
that
John.
being late in Brazil is so part of the culture. If they want to start on time, they say I'm going to butcher this completely, com pontualidade Britannica, which means with British punctuality.
Ooh, interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really interesting. Hmm. I wouldn't think British were that punctual.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
But
Good to
Australians
know.
are, because they're all
All right, so shower
on an
thoughts,
island
guys. We're
anyway.
gonna hit you. Here we come. Get ready. Here comes your most
Shower
exciting,
thoughts!
best part of the
I
show.
have a
You
lot
guys
of
love
them,
the
so when
shower
you run
thoughts so
out, just move to the bottom of
much.
mine.
Okay. All right. So, if you were born in 1999 and lived to be 102, not only would you have lived through 3 separate centuries,
Ooh, that's
right?
awesome.
You also would have lived through 2 separate millennia.
Yeah,
Which is kind of cool.
and two pandemics. Um, Somewhere out there is a kid whose birthday wish was, I wish spring break could go on forever.
Yep. Good. Okay. If a parade is boring, you can run in the opposite direction of the parade to fast forward it.
Oh yeah, that's Mitch Hedberg.
Basically. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, no, it's not Mitch Hedberg.
Really? I was gonna say I didn't know he ran to the back
It's
of parade.
Dimitri Martin. He says that.
Mm.
Yeah, he said,
Mm.
"Don't walk with it. It's way boring." Um,
Oh, gotcha.
it's amazing how this is for all y'all out there bashing each other on Facebook because it's stupid and I like to laugh at you and think you're not as mature as I thought. It's amazing how smart people think you are in the comment sections if you treat them with respect.
Hmm. I think that's true in general.
Yeah, no, it
Like just in
totally is,
life.
but
I think.
right now it's very like it's very pertinent to today.
Yeah.
Like,
I like this one. So putting the word man before any dairy item suddenly makes it inappropriate. Man
ooh,
milk.
yeah,
Man milk.
man butter.
Man,
Ugh,
my man cheese.
ugh, gross. With cottage cheese.
My man cottage cheese.
Ugh,
My man curds.
yuck. My man grated cheese.
Yeah.
Uh,
My man parmesan.
that one's just doesn't make sense
Yeah,
at
that's
all. Yeah. Man mozzarella. Uh, traffic cameras can get a clear picture of a license plate of cars going 50 miles an hour, but bank cameras can't even get a clear shot of a robber standing still.
so true. So true. Yeah, they have the worst cameras, it seems like.
So bad.
Okay, this is kind of an interesting one. Explain this. Boiling water will soften potatoes, but harden an egg.
True. Changes its state. That's weird.
Kind of wild.
Yeah, it's the proteins in the egg. It's
Nobody
impressive.
knows why either.
I know nobody. It doesn't make any sense. It's actually just magic. It proves that
Magic.
magic was around and now it's no longer here. But it
So
is. It just
magic.
lurks in the unknowns. It's impressive how difficult it is to start a campfire, but how easy it is for a fire to start and spread on its own.
So true. It's like magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I I've thought this several times, but I want to just say this here. Jurassic Park
Mm.
would have worked if they only cloned herbivore dinosaurs.
So true.
It was their
They
fault, man.
screwed it
They
up right from
just
the
if they
beginning.
totally would have just done herbivores,
Yep.
the long necks, triceratops.
Yep.
I don't know
The
any other
the little
herbivore
foots,
dinosaurs.
the little foots, the Petries.
Littlefoots, yes, Littlefoots.
Ah. A bachelor party makes more sense after a divorce instead of before a wedding.
So funny. That's true. Good point. Good point. Okay, let's see. Um, computers are considered smart if they link humans and human, or if they like humans
think
and humans are
think
considered
like
smart.
humans.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Computers are considered smart if they think like humans, and humans are considered smart if they think like computers.
Super true.
There you go.
Okay, so this one got me. You put on your thinking cap, close your eyes for a second, and think about this. It's easier to think of medieval times in color than it is the 40s.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Um, okay, let's see. If you are relatively skinny and you have an identical twin who is overweight, you could make a lot of money doing weight loss testimonials. That's
So
hilarious.
true. Everyone is brave until the cockroach flies.
That's funny. That's true. Dude, in college, I had a ton of cockroaches in my dorm room. Seriously.
Serious.
They would all,
I,
because it was such a humid environment, they'd always be going off left. They'd be flying all over the place. It's terrifying. I think that's all of the shower thoughts I had.
okay, here's one for you. Okay, well,
Yeah, hit
we
me.
can end with this one. I have a few more, but
Okay.
we can end with this one. People addicted to going to a chiropractor are literally crackheads.
True. Good point.
And I know how
Good
much you
point.
like chiropractors.
Well, I guess you could say people that are addicted to go to massage therapy are mush heads.
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. Does that work? Does that work?
No,
I don't know.
no. We were gonna
No?
end on such a strong note,
Mush
and then you
heads.
just did
Mush
that.
heads. Nailed it. Boom. All right,
Ah,
guys. Well, thanks for listening to Test Normal. This was episode 60. Excited to
sticks
have you on
up.
next week. Go over a certain historical figure. It'll be fun. And yeah, let us
We'll see how
subscribe
bad we
on
make ourselves look.
subscribe on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram.
Boop
Let
boop.
us know what you like, what you don't like. We love you all. Hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you later.
See
Peace.
ya.